My name is Eamon Halpin. I am a campus administrator at LSUA. This is my colleague, Brittany Soden. Brittany was recently appointed director of the Spiro program, and she's been working for us for just 3 weeks now,
Hello.
but already doing wonderful work. So I've been involved in the development of the Spiro program for the last 2.5 years. Spiro, it's an acronym. On the one hand, it stands for Special Program for the Enhancement of Resources and Opportunities for Young People with Developmental Disabilities. It's a mouthful, but actually it also is Latin. It's a Latin word. It means I hope, right? So this is a new program. It's a unique program for us. We have not developed anything of this kind before, and the audience for the program are young people with developmental or intellectual disabilities who've actually completed high school, either with a high school diploma or a certificate of achievement or some equivalent of that, but who are ineligible for regular college admission. So the audience is not degree-seeking students. That's our main population, students who come to us to earn an associate or a bachelor's degree. These students are going to be on campus, and they will be fully integrated into the life of the campus, but they won't be pursuing a degree. So the focus is going to be on skills development, right? These students are not eligible for college, but they have a lot of potential. They have skills that can be further developed. So we're going to focus on the development of their daily living skills, kind of practical skills like cooking, managing a household budget, driving, that kind of thing. Also social and interpersonal skills, and finally vocational skills, because ultimately the goal is to help these students to live more independent lives and to secure meaningful and rewarding employment in their communities. So that's what the program is about. Now, this program is not something that has really been central to our mission as a university. There's nothing in our mission statement that talks about this. So you might be wondering, why did we embark on this program? Well, it wasn't really our idea, to be honest. We were approached by a mother from our community. Her name is Penny Smith. And Penny called us up one day out of the blue, and she told us about her daughter, Caitlin. Caitlin at that time was about to graduate from high school. Caitlin does have some developmental disabilities. She would have some form of autism, but she had successfully completed high school with some help, but there was no post-secondary option available for her in central Louisiana. So Penny was very concerned about Caitlin. What was going to happen to her after high school? What opportunities would she have to continue her education, to continue to develop her skills and to become an independent person? So she called us up and she asked us, would we consider, well, she wanted to know, first of all, whether we had such a program, and if we didn't, whether we would consider developing one. She told us that in the southern part of the state, below I-10, 3 programs already existed. There's one at ULL in Lafayette called the LIFE program. There's one at Nichols State called Bridge to Independence. And then there's a program at Southeastern called Lines Connected. So these programs existed south of the I-10, but there was really nothing north of I-10. And Penny didn't want to have to send her daughter off to some other school. She wanted her to develop further, but she wanted her to be close to home, right, and to be able to commute to a school that would provide the services she needed. So, I mean, we did not immediately say yes, we will do this. I mean, we probably dilly-dallied for a while, and we had some conversations about it. We were kind of moved by what Penny had to say. I mean, she actually had already written to Governor John Bell Edwards about her daughter, and she had received a reply encouraging her to talk to us. So, we hadn't done anything like this before. We had several conversations. We had a couple of open meetings with interested community members and parents. The first meeting was kind of small, only about 10 people showed up. But several months later, we had another one, and we had about 70 people show up. And they were all moms and dads like Penny. I mean, they all had the same story. And what these parents are worried about is what's going to happen to their kids, when they're no longer able to care for them and support them. Are they going to have the kind of independence that will allow them to flourish and thrive when their parents are either not around at all or just not able to really care for them in the way they could when they were younger. So that second open meeting really convinced us that we should do this. So we faced a couple of barriers. One of them was just lack of knowledge. It was sort of outside of our scope and outside of our experience. But we thought, well, we'll just have to learn. So we formed a committee. Now, sometimes when people hear about committees being formed, they think, well, that's just a way not to do anything. But our committee actually worked pretty well. And I think one good thing we did was we included 2 parents. We brought them on board. They were part of the committee. One was Penny, and another lady called Melva, who also had a daughter with developmental disabilities. So they've been on the committee with us all along for about 2 years. And I would say they're kind of the core. I'm actually the chair of the committee, but those 2 ladies are kind of the core people. And they have just kind of encouraged us, and we feel inspired by them. So I think it was a good move, including them on the committee. But we also have some other people with expertise. There's a man called Dr. John Haig. He runs the Louisiana Autism Center in Alexandria. So Dr. John is on the committee. We have a faculty member in psychology. Our provost is actually also on the committee. So we have a few people who are kind of high up on the food chain, which I think was important too. And our chancellor has been very supportive of all of this. So we've also been in touch with the other 3 programs in the southern part of the state, the folks at Nicholls State, at Southeastern, and ULL. And we've had extensive conversations, especially with the Southeastern people. There's a lady there called Dr. Gerlinda Beckers. She really runs their program, and she is a very strong advocate for the development of these programs throughout the state. So we've been in close contact with those people. There's also now a statewide group called LAPI. That's Louisiana Alliance for Post-Secondary Inclusive Education. And that group kind of represents the existing programs in the state, and they're advocates for funding for the programs. And actually there's a bill currently at the Louisiana House. It's SB 192, and it's been sponsored by Senator Gerald Boudreaux. And this bill, if approved, would provide $1 million annually for programs of this kind. So we got connected to all these groups, and that helped us kind of learn what we needed to do. The other barrier was funding. This program was not something that we had budgeted for. We typically run on a very tight budget. There's not a lot of spare dollars floating around. And we knew that we could only do this program effectively if it was properly staffed. There wasn't really, sometimes universities hand something over to somebody who's already on the staff as an add-on. Well, you can do this as well as everything else you do. But we kind of knew that that wouldn't work for this kind of program, that we would need to have money to pay a full-time director. That's how we have Brittany. But we're also hiring one part-time person, and we have a little team of student mentors who will also be paid. So we knew we would need funding for this to be, we didn't want to half do this. We knew that to be truly effective, we'd have to have funding. So the first thing we did for about 6 months, we embarked on just soliciting private donations. We set up a Facebook page. We did mail outs to individuals and local businesses. We had a couple of events to which we invited some important people. One of them was a lady called Bambi Palazzola. She is the executive director of the Governor's Council for Disability Affairs, and she came to one of our events. I didn't even think she'd come, but she showed up, and she spoke, and we recorded her speaking, and we brought in about $50,000 from private donations initially, and then we started writing grants, and we were disappointed a few times. I was kind of the grant writer, and I think about the first 3 I was declined, but then we got in touch with, I think actually Blue Cross Blue Shield got in touch with us, because I remember we had a Zoom meeting with Michael, and we told him about the program, and he encouraged us to apply. So we wrote the grant, and essentially what we needed was a startup fund. The students will actually be charged a program fee, but in the beginning we're just going to have 4 students. Year 1, 4 students, year 2, 8 students, year 3, 12, year 4, 16. By the fourth year, we will be more or less self-sustaining because of the revenue from the program fees. What we needed was some help getting the whole thing going, and it would keep us going for, from years 1 to 4. So that's where Blue Cross Blue Shield really helped. We asked them for $100,000. This was the Special Impact Project, and they actually awarded us more than we asked for. Because they wanted to be sure that we really could sustain it over the long haul. Let's see. That's the background. What's our next slide? Yes, I mentioned LA Pi. Well, I think I'm going to hand you over to Brittany now, and she can fill you in on some more of the details.
Thank you, Dr.
All
Alvin.
right, Brittany.
It's nice to see all of you today. So I was just hired as the director of the Spiro program 3 weeks ago, so hello. So I am starting the process of interviewing all of the student mentors right now. Those are going to be the college students currently on campus, and they will be mentoring the Spiro students all day. So these students coming in, the developmentally disabled, are nervous. They mostly have autism, ADHD. They have trouble getting around by themselves, interacting with other students, doing those types of things that normal students do every day. So who better to lead them around than the actual students? They can go and introduce them to their friends, take them to lunch, show them around. They'll be the ones taking them everywhere. They'll be helping them audit classes as well. So they'll be sitting there right next to them, helping them, explaining things along the way, doing those types of things for them. We will also have daily living skills classes and vocational classes. That's the main idea and goal of this program, is to teach all of those things to these individuals. They don't have that opportunity. During high school, they receive their special education. Most students get their high school diploma, go on to college or vocational schools, and they have a future ahead of them. Our students, they receive maybe their certificate of completion, but that's it. They have nowhere else to go after that. So a lot of them just live with their parents, and that's it. They have nothing to do. A lot of them want to go to college, they just don't have that opportunity to do so. The parents came to LSUA and they brought it to everybody's attention that there's nothing for their kids to do. Their kids want to go to college, they want an opportunity, they want to be contributing members of society. I mean, a lot of kids don't want to do that. They don't want to go to school. These kids want to. They deserve the opportunity to do so. So we are going to create that program to help them do that, teaching them the daily living skills, the vocational skills. A lot of these students don't have the communication skills needed to have a normal life. So one of the first skills I'll be teaching them, I'll also be the teacher. So directing and teaching, I will be teaching them the first step, eye contact, body language. A lot of them don't like to make eye contact. They're very secluded. They don't like to touch anybody, to look at anybody. They're in their own world. They're in their own space. Well, the first step to a job interview is, hello, nice to meet you. My name is Brittany. They can't do that. They can't even look at the interviewer. It's difficult for them. So teaching them the basics of communications, of body language, all types of different communications. And then along that way, teaching them the type of job that they might want to apply for, teaching them how to do those things. So that's where the daily living skills and vocational skills come into tact. We'll be teaching them those things. While in the classroom, they'll be learning how to integrate with their fellow students, their classmates, which is something that they haven't had the opportunity to do either, because most of them haven't been in a classroom in years, because they haven't had this opportunity. So the student mentors, the teachers, the professors that they'll be auditing classes with will all be helping them do that. They'll also be integrating into their school society. So they'll be doing everything that the normal campus students can do. They'll be going to the recreational activities, the sporting events. There are different weeks and activities that the school celebrates, ethnic activities. Since a lot of them are just at home, they don't have exposure to all of the different races, ethnicities, festivals, practices. We'll be able to integrate them into those things too, and they'll be learning more than just what they can learn at home. It'll be normal college for them, which is what a lot of them want. Dr. Halpin mentioned Caitlin, which I've had the honor of meeting. She interviews next week, but I know her a little bit. She's a twin, a 21-year-old twin. She has a twin sister. I asked her about her sister, and she said, oh my gosh, she's in college. She's going to PT school. She's going to do so good. And I said, oh, well, that's great. What else? And she just kind of got sad and said, I wish I could go to college. I wish I could do that. I wish I knew how to talk to people like that. So that's where our part mostly comes in, is the sentiment of this need. So by forming a little team, hopefully it grows in the future. We haven't talked about that, but hopefully it grows. I think it will be beneficial to all of these students, their families, their parents, and not only them, but spreading awareness. I've talked to some of the student mentors. They had the interviews all this week. And when they asked, what do? I said, they're not going to be able to communicate for themselves. Communicate for them. Be their voice. And that's what they're going to do. If they're kind of secluded, I said, tell the other students, don't be afraid. Don't not talk to them. Don't stay away. Take them up to the other students and introduce them. Integrate them. Get them involved. That will give other people knowledge of the autistic students, of the students with developmental disabilities, which may spread this knowledge, and hopefully we won't be the only university in central and northern Louisiana. It would spread knowledge to the rest of the LSU system, hopefully, because we left that out. LSU system has never had a developmentally disabled program before. We are the pilot.
And we don't really want to have a monopoly on this.
Yeah.
Because mainly because the need is pretty deep. I mean, that's what we've become aware of over the last few years. We're just starting to meet the need, but we really want to encourage other schools to develop similar programs, and we're certainly available to share what we know, what little we know right now. But, so there's plenty of room for other people to get on board and work on this issue.
Yes. And I've been in this field for a long time. I've worked many different jobs. I started as a paraprofessional, as somebody mentioned earlier. So I was in the classroom, I was in the special ed classroom. I moved on to being a job coach, so that's where my vocational skills come in handy. Then I became an art therapy teacher for special needs students. I plan on incorporating that as well because art is very therapeutic. It allows them to put the words that they can't speak out loud onto a canvas. We will be able to read that and be able to ask them questions about those, the things that they weren't able to speak, and it will pull it out of them, that communication. I also, after that, became a habilitation instructor, teaching daily living skills and job skills. So, learning all of the different communication styles through assessments, their communication styles, all of their interests, we are going to allow those interests to become their jobs, hopefully. We're going to allow them to choose the classes that they want to audit. They won't be graded for it, but the inclusion is what this is about. They'll be learning the things that they want to do for their jobs to hopefully be able to get a job at the end of this. We have one applicant who is incredible at photography, but there's nowhere for her to go for that because nobody will take her. She doesn't meet the requirements to get into a program like that. I saw some of her work, and it's incredible. So I asked her, would you be interested in taking a digital photography class here? And that can go on your checklist. Somebody may be interested in that. She got so excited to say, yes, please, I want to do it. So finding these things that they're interested in, as well as Caitlin, she hasn't been able to play tennis since she was in high school. Well, we have a tennis team. We have tennis courses. We'll be able to get her into that. She'll be involved. You don't just get physical activity from that. You get inclusion, social integration. You get all types of different activities and therapies within that one course. That could prepare her for the rest of her life. And that's what our ultimate goal is to prepare these students that don't have the resources and opportunities to live a life, give them a second chance. So we hope to bring hope to them.
I want to make one last point, and it's to do with the funding. So one thing I've learned is that when you receive, it's difficult to get the first grant, and as I had mentioned, my first 3 attempts failed. But once I had one grant, then it seemed to be easier to get a second one. And we did get a sponsorship. After receiving the Blue Cross Blue Shield Award, we received sponsorship from a group called the Coughlin Saunders Foundation of Alexandria. And so they provided us with $50,000. And then our local Congresswoman, Julia Letlow, who was elected to Congress recently, she helped secure some federal dollars for us very recently. So Blue Cross Blue Shield sort of started the ball rolling, and then other people rode in. They knew about the help we'd received. So again, I just want to express our deep gratitude to Blue Cross Blue Shield for the faith that they have in us and in the program we're developing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. We have time for a few questions.
Go ahead. We're going back here first, and then we're coming up front. Back here first.
Thanks, first of all, to you and the other 3 universities that are recognizing the need and doing this. What are you doing about tuition? Is there any financial aid available? And considering that there's 3 other universities already doing it, has anyone talked to anyone legislatively about possibly TOPS covering a portion of the cost or all of it?
Good question. There is before I get to the state side, on the federal side, there is an opportunity. So there's a federal designation called CTP, Comprehensive Transition Program. You have to apply for this designation. And if you're awarded it, then the students in the program are eligible for Pell Grant. So we're in the process of applying for this designation. I don't think we're going to have it for the first crop of students. But I know, and I think the other programs didn't have it in the beginning either. They needed to get up and running, and then they were able to write a successful application. So that's on the federal funding. Those students would be eligible for Pell Grant, and the Pell Grant would largely cover the program fee, actually. I think it's also true that if we have this designation, the students would also be eligible for LRS funding. That's what the folks at LRS have told me. So getting this CTP designation is crucial, and we've started working on that, and that's going to solve some of the tuition issues. I haven't heard anything about TOPS and about whether that could be awarded to students in this program, but it's something I will actually follow up, and it's a good question. But there is a kind of a growing movement in this state. I mentioned the LA Pi group, this alliance. I mentioned the House bill, or it originated in the Senate actually, and now it's with the House. So I think there is a movement afoot to really, in the state, to support students, like the ones we've been talking about. So hopefully we'll get some state help too. There is the bill would provide funding to the program, right? SB 192. It's not for the students themselves, though.
So I'll start with, I didn't know that there were other programs around the state that had this type of program. But my question is like housing. So like if they're not specifically within your area, like what does that look like in order for other students to be able to participate?
Well, they're not living on campus
Yeah.
right now. We haven't really come up with those issues because the parents aren't ready to let go yet. And we only have 4 to begin with. So we're still in the beginning process of it. Like I said, that hasn't come up because the parents don't want their child to go out. So once they learn more skills, this is a 4-year program, that may come up in the future. But right now, it hasn't. A lot of them may not be living on their own for a while. So if anything, they might. Some of the girls said, we could live together. And I said, learn how to do the dishes first. Like, you need to learn how to cook first. So that's our main goal right now.
Gotcha.
So
Look,
we'll
I
see.
just know some kids that this would be wonderful for, and I know that their parents are looking for opportunities like this. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the group?
Hi, I just want to congratulate you for starting this up in that part of the state. As a mother of an autistic child who's been through a similar program, I applaud you for doing that. I will also tell you that LRS does provide individual funding for full tuition, books, and housing. And the student can certify. As long as the program is accredited through an accredited university, they will qualify.
Good. Well, I'm very glad to hear that because I have been told different things, to be honest. But I will have to cite you the next. I need to get your name and your right,
And
so I can.
my son successfully lived on campus at Southeastern in the dormitory, and they have
Okay.
student helpers that
Good.
help them. And I'll also tell you, ULL has a phenomenal program with a group home setting for these students to be able to help learn those individual skills.
Yeah.
So I'll be
Thank
happy
you.
to share those
Good,
resources with
great.
you after.
And one thing I should mention, there are actually 2 programs offered on community college campuses. They're a little smaller in scale and they focus more on employment, and they're called PSI programs, or PSE, Program for Successful Employment. And there's one at Baton Rouge Community College and there's one at Bossier Parish Community College. So those are 2 other options. They're not kind of as complete as the programs on the 4-year campuses, but still they're available.
Quickly, how long is the Spiro program? Because we know it's a 4-year institution. Is it like a 2-year program? How do they know when they're finished? And do they get like a little degree or certificate? How does that work?
It's a 4-year program. There are 2-year programs, well, there were 2-year programs down in the South in those other college programs. But there was a want for more. These students want to feel like college students. You can't learn everything that you've learned up to this point as an adult. You can't put it into 2 years. So 4 years has been the want and need, and we decided to go that route with 4 years.
And I think that the idea would be that in years 3 and 4, they would start to get some vocational training, either on campus. You know, there are lots of venues on campus. We have a bookstore, a cafeteria, an athletics department, but there are also local businesses who would be willing to give students some work experience. So in years 3 and 4, the focus would turn to that kind of thing.
And as far as a certificate or graduation, it's fairly new, so we haven't talked about this.
I think we will have a certificate. There will be an award, certainly, at the end, yes.
And I'm hoping that there is some type of ceremony. Or if they could get in on the LSUA ceremony, that would be great. But something.
Yeah.
They're going to be seniors graduating. That's what I'm going to be telling them. They're starting as freshmen and they're graduating as seniors. They deserve that. They want that. And that's what I'm going to give them.
Well, thank you both so much for sharing. We appreciate all your work. So join me again in thanking the Spiro team. And just one more shout out for them. I thought something that was really interesting to Connie's point about Southeastern's program. They're actually taking some of your student mentors and staff to visit the campus and learn in action. So I think that's a great model of excellence to bring good practices and spread those habits. So thank you for that.